こんにちは。GPE Youth アンバサダージャパンです。本日司会を務めさせていただきます、大沢彩です。今日はベトナムの若手活動家であるAnh Phuong さんにインタビューを行います。Anhさんは現在、ベトナムにて教員になるトレーニングを重ねるとともに、教育へのアクセスを広げるために活動をしています。私たちは日本の GPE ユースとして活動していく中で、日本人の国際的な課題、特に女子教育という分野への問題意識に温度差があるように感じていました。そこで、途上国における女子教育の現状について、もっと日本の人々に知っていただきたいと思い、この企画に至りました。なぜ教育が大切か、コロナがベトナムの教育に与えている影響、コロナから学ぶべきこと、私たち若者がジェンダー平等の教育に向けて何ができるのか、そしてドナー国として日本に何を求めるのかという問いに対して、ベトナムの現場からの声をお届けします。Hello, we are GPE Youth Ambassadors Japan. Today, we would like to broadcast a video of the interview with Anh Phuong. Ms. Anh has been working as a youth activist to spread awareness on the importance of quality education, while training to become a teacher based in Vietnam. Hello, Anh. Thank you so much for joining our interview today. We are really pleased to have you here with us. We will be asking 5 questions on the topic of girls' education in the times of COVID-19.
The first question is, why is education important to you?
For me, education is really important because I believe that it's a key for all people to have a level playing field. Education provides everyone with opportunities to shape their futures and become the people that they want to be. When children, and especially girls, they can access education, they can have choices for their own futures and opportunities that can change their lives. They can become people and women that could later change our world. Last year, I worked on a global research, a better normal girls' call for revolutionary reset with Australian youth leaders. It was a global survey of girls and young women all over the world to learn that what is their ideal world after COVID. And most of them said that education is very important to them because they want to have access to education as it is transformative. And in Vietnam, I think education is also very, very important. It could be the root of many problems, and through education, we can tackle gender equality, we can tackle discrimination against girls, and many, many other things. If we could change education, we could educate a new generation and create a much better world than now.
Thank you for your thoughts on education. I definitely agree with what you said, and being the root cause of every problem. And by funding education, we are also able to tackle problems with it.
And the next question I'll be asking is, how is education affected by COVID-19 in Vietnam, and how are students coping with that situation?
To prepare to answer this question, I have asked all my friends in my youth network about the reality of education in their area in Vietnam. So we started a survey to all my friends from all over Vietnam. So during COVID, many things are happening in Vietnam. However, education has been seriously affected by COVID. Though schools are reopening right now, online education, I think, is still our future, and we have to be more resilient to deal with a future crisis. And while we were in lockdown, education was disrupted because we had to familiarize ourselves with online learning. Even in big cities where we have enough devices such as phones and laptops, it's still very difficult because it's the first time teachers are teaching online and they do not have training, and the students do not have enough skills of self-studying. In remote and mountainous areas, the situation is different. There are many students who do not have access to internet or technology devices. The government has been really innovative during that time and delivered education in different forms, such as learning through TV or homework assignments to deal with the digital divide. However, the difficulties still discourage many students from continuing their study. One other issue is that when girls in the area, they cannot go to school or access online learning, they may have early marriages. And once this happens, they don't go to school anymore.
Thank you, Anh. It was interesting when you mentioned that you had asked other peers around you for their opinion. I think as a donor country, it's important to be aware that each student's situation is different, regardless they are in the same country. So thank you for that. I just had a follow-up question. Being an experienced teacher yourself, how do you perceive the situation and what are some things you wish you had in support?
So for me, I'm a student teacher. That means I'm doing my practicum during COVID-19. I mostly practice how to teach online. So at the moment, the Ministry of Education and Training, as well as my universities and my practicum schools, they are providing training, but not enough for online teaching. Because COVID came, it was such a disaster and it was too surprise for us. So when I want to learn online skills using training and using education platforms such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams, usually I have to learn from the tutorials from YouTube. And if I want to enhance my online teaching skills, I would go to study from online courses. However, the courses are in English, and so many teachers in Vietnam, they do not know English, so it's very difficult for them to understand those materials. So the ministry could support teachers by providing this training in Vietnamese so that they have not only the skills to use online platforms such as Zoom or Teams, but also the ability to teach online. And students also need this kind of support to learn study online. They should be provided with the self-study skills.
COVID-19 has affected the world negatively. However, this pandemic has also been a chance for people to rethink education. What can we learn from this experience and how can we leverage that to further make education accessible?
I think that's very, very important now because education should be accessible to everyone, especially during COVID. We could see that many vulnerable people, like girls or children, like girls' child, it's very difficult for them to access education, and it should be trained in the future. And platforms like GPE could connect donors and developing countries so that they can share experiences, they can learn and help each other. For example, Japanese teachers could teach Vietnamese teachers about how they're managing online education and how they deal with it. And they can also have governments to strengthen their support to teachers. For example, by supporting the highest performing teachers and become master trainers for their peers, a far greater number of teachers were able to receive continuous professional support and quality training. And I also think that COVID-19 has highlighted the fact that education system need a plan B when schools are closed so that students can learn safely and effectively. We should use both digital and non-digital approaches in education responses to school closures, such as TV, radio, or take-home packages. These different teaching options could also support learning outside of crisis times. And I think that COVID-19 has shone a light on the need to make sure that education system will work for everyone. And this means that the governments need to prioritize equity and reaching the most vulnerable students, especially the poor girls. These students were already advantaged before and now are being hit harder by the pandemic.
Thank you for your powerful answer. I totally agree that this pandemic has motivated people to work for education to be more resilient towards everyone. I think GPE is a major player in promoting education.
Fourth question would be, girls' education can be a very complicated topic. What can we as youth do to further enhance gender transformative education?
I think that because it's a very complicated topic, so I could answer this question based on what I know in Vietnam. I think that in Vietnam, in some big cities like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh, girls' education is already accepted as a human right. However, there's still a lot of discrimination against girls pursuing higher education or having really good academic achievements. Just because many people think that if girls are too excellent, they may not have a very happy marriage because cannot fulfill the caring role society expects them to do. However, I believe that this discrimination we need to be tackled. We have to make sure that all girls can study as much as they want because it's their right and there's nothing wrong with being excellent or good at something. In fact, the evidence shows that if educated girls, she will be able to make better life choices, earn a higher income, and contribute much more to her family and community life than she would without education. In remote and mountainous areas, there are many girls who marry when they are really young. After they get married, they think it's not necessary to study anymore and become mothers themselves and do not have money to educate their children. Though there is no laws against them go back to school after being pregnant, but the general expectation forces them to stay at home and don't go back to school. So I believe that in the area, the education system must be friendlier and more accessible to them. That it should be provided to people regardless of whether they are married or getting pregnant. Maybe they can do this by having classes for girls who are older, for women who are already having a family, so that they feel that they are not being excluded.
Yes, thank you for such a strong and passionate message. I agree that education should be for everyone, regardless of gender, and I think it is important for us to know and understand the situation of early marriage and pregnancy in Vietnam. So thank you.
Okay, so the final question is, what do you expect from Japan as a donor country?
As a donor country, Japan can support education in Vietnam and other developing countries by making a strong contribution to global partnership for education. Many girls did not have opportunity to learn even before the pandemic, as strengthening education systems has become even more urgent now. The economic costs of not educating girls are huge. Limited educational opportunities for girls are costing countries between 15 trillion and 30 trillion in lost lifetime productivity and earnings. If GPE is fully funded for 2021 to 2025, it would have ensured an additional 46 million girls enrolled in school and placing them on the path to a full 12 years of quality education.
Thank you, Anh. Your comment has reassured me that as a GPE Youth Ambassador for Japan, we must keep our actions consistent. And at the same time, education can be a costly investment. So this is where the donor countries really could make a difference. And that Japan, as a donor country, should move into more direct contribution like the other G7 countries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our interview for today. Ms. Phuong Anh, thank you so much for taking your time to take part in this interview. It was such a pleasure to have you as our guest. We hope to stay in touch and meet in person when the pandemic is over.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's such my pleasure for being here and amplify your voice.
フォン・アインさん、興味深いお話をありがとうございました。コロナ禍で私たち日本の若者に何ができるのか考えさせられるとともに、このような危機的状況だからこそ積極的にアクションを起こしていくべきだというメッセージ性のある内容でした。一方で、先進国として G7 の国として日本に何ができるのでしょうか。日本政府が途上国で起きている問題に関心を持ち、アクションを起こすことは先進国としての責任を果たすことに当たるのではないでしょうか。皆さんもベトナムの教育の現状について今コロナ禍で何が起きているのか少し理解を深められたことと思います。こういった機会を機に少しでも途上国の教育問題に関心や興味を抱いていただけたら幸いです。今後も GPE Youth Japan はこのチャンネルを使ってインタビューや動画を上げていく予定ですので、チャンネル登録をお願いします。また、ユース独自でインスタもやっています。定期的に GPE に関する記事やビデオを投稿しております。概要欄にリンクを貼っていますので、そこからフォローよろしくお願いします。 では本日は本当にフォン・アイさんありがとうございました。